This is Madia-as Digdigan Buenaflor, extending an invitation to each and every one of you everywhere, as my way of commemorating the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II. I will read and serialize my novel, The Blood of Three, starting on Tuesday, August 27, and continuing episodes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Follow the drama on my YouTube channel. May we forever exhale and inhale love and peace. Chapter 7. It was Sunday morning, market day. 3 truckloads of Japanese soldiers from the adjacent town have arrived, passing through the crowded market square. Civilians from the outlying barrios and villages have come down to the marketplace, bringing their harvests such as corn, cassava, yams, fresh fruits and vegetables, fresh and dried fish, and poultry products either to sell or to barter for second-hand clothing, salt, sugar, and other household necessities. Civilians in the town who saved their bedspreads, tablecloth, and curtains were lucky, for the materials were readily altered into dresses and shirts and fetched a lot of money and became excellent trades for the farmers' crops. However, people preferred to barter instead of selling for Japanese money, which they regarded as play money. They just had a mistrust in the profusion of the Japanese paper bills. Food had rapidly become scarce, for the Japanese were confiscating a large portion of the people's harvest, while the guerrillas at the same time relied on the farmers for their food supplies. Everything came in small measures, making it very difficult for the civilians to save and store for the ensuing days. Even dried salted fish, which had become a basic commodity since it could stand long storage, was now much harder to obtain. Salt, sugar, and soap could only be had at very high prices. Most of the people resorted to eating roasted coconut meat in place of the missing 3 meals a day. This had been the meager subsistence of the civilians for the past 3 years, and it was getting much worse from day to day. Like the past Sundays, people came to town. Although there was not much anymore to buy or barter, still they gathered as if their being together in a crowd could bring back a semblance of their peaceful and happy pre-war days. Yet, whenever they turned, fear was their constant companion. Japanese soldiers marched along and around the marketplace, just a clearing with spattering of thatched sheds for the vendors. The old concrete marketplace was no longer available since very recently the Japanese used it as a concentration camp for civilians who were ordered to come down to town. The Japanese were more strict and alert than the previous week, watching the civilians and guarding against the possible infiltration of guerrillas into the town. Loda hustled her way through the crowd to barter some of her used skirts and Mr. Miura's old shirts. She readily acceded to having her 2 skirts traded for a dozen eggs, and Mr. Miura's 2 shirts and a pair of pants for 1 chicken and 1 liter of cornmeal. She could have asked for more, since these were the last clothing she could spare, but seeing the old woman, her back bent from age, made her feel more liberal. Putting the eggs in the basket and carrying the chicken by its tied legs, Lota walked back home. "Good morning, Mom." It was Michi who caught up with her. "Good morning, Michi." Lota was pleased to see him. "You look fine." "Thank you, not much work today," he shyly smiled. "May I walk you home, Ma'am?" "Oh, of course, Michi, I'd love that." "May I help you with that, Ma'am?" He offered a hand. "Yes, you may. Thank you so much." Lota handed the chicken and the basket to Michi, and together they walked home without much exchange of words. "Oh, hiyo, Miura-san." Michi bowed upon seeing Mr. Miura walk toward them. "It's nice to see you, Michi." He took the chicken and the basket from him. "Domo arigato." Michi stood for a while looking around and seeing that there was no one except for Mr. Miura and Loda. He hesitatingly asked their permission to leave. "You are leaving so soon?" Lota was surprised. Mitzi nodded. "Where are you going from here?" There was concern on Lota's face. "I'll walk back to the market." "Thank you for helping Mrs. Miura and for walking her home." Mr. Miura acknowledged with a bow. Mitzi bowed and sadly walked away. He could have asked Mitzi to stay, but he had an important matter to discuss with his wife. "Doesn't he look so sad and so alone?" Lota followed Mitzi with her look. "He certainly seemed unhappy. You should have asked him to stay for lunch. Next time, Lota, I'm afraid we have a problem." Mr. Miura sounded serious as he led his wife away from the stair. "What's the matter, Mal?" "Something's very wrong, Lota." Mr. Miura asked her to keep her voice low. "It's Joybell." "What about her?" Lota became suddenly concerned. "Our girl seems very lonely too. She hasn't spoken a word since you left." "Is she sick?" Lota was frantic. "I don't think so, Lota. I guess she must be missing someone." Mr. Miura explained as he patted Lota's back. "I'm afraid our Joybell is no longer a child." "What do you mean? Joybell missing someone?" "We really should have asked Mitzi to stay." "No, I don't think it's Mitzi either that she misses." "Oh, then, Ernesto, who else? He was the only visitor he was excited to be with. I mean the only male visitor whose company she really enjoyed." "Poor child, but it's just normal. I miss Ernesto myself. After all, that boy was an old friend and a very close one at that." "Lota, you better do something." "That's your job, Mama." He teased her. "My job? You mean our job?" Lota contested. Now, go ahead. Talk to her. Tell her maybe Ernesto would visit us again. Maybe someday, or tomorrow, or maybe soon. Tell her anything that would make her smile again. I can't bear to see her this way." Mr. Miura was worried. He loved Joybell so much that seeing her unhappy disturbed him no end. He would do anything just to make her happy. But now he had asked Lota. He believed that in this matter it should be a woman who should talk to another. A woman? He just thought of Joybell as a woman. Lota braced herself as he walked up the stairs. Mr. Miura stayed behind and squatted before his garden, pulling the few weeds that have grown overnight, his mind in deep thought. Even the sound of the opening door seemed not to draw Joybell away from her thoughts. She had been sitting the whole morning by the window, her chin cushioned by her folded arms on the windowsill, her thoughts far, her eyes fixed at the far horizon. She would occasionally breathe deeply. Lota shook her head as she passed by her. Hurriedly placing her goods on the kitchen table, she went back to Joybell and lightly placed her hand on her shoulder. Joybell did not seem to feel her presence. Lota kissed her hair. Only then did Joybell notice her. "You are back, Mommy?" Her question was perfunctory and lifeless. "Yes, dear. Got a dozen eggs for my skirts and a chicken and 1 liter of cornmeal for your daddy's shirts and pair of pants," she reported enthusiastically, with the hope of diverting Joybell's thought from whatever she was thinking of. But this did not help, for she did not even turn to face her. Lota was again at a loss on what to do. This was the first time that she had noticed Joybell to be somber. She had always been spirited. After an awkward silence, Lota brightened up and hurried to her room. She came back holding a pink silk dress. "Look, Joybell, I have a surprise for you." "What is it, Mommy?" she asked without turning. Lota was a little hurt, but she went on. "I made this for you," she continued, sounding very excited as she raised the dress. She made it from her old long skirts she found while she was sorting out her old clothes to be bartered the other week. She had planned to give this as a surprise to Joybell for Christmas, which was yet months away. She decided to show it now, hoping to cheer her up. "Would you try this on?" Joybell touched the dress with one hand and picked it up, showing no delight at all. "It's beautiful, Mommy." Not really looking at it. Lota was a bit disappointed. but she did not easily give up. "Come on, dear, put this on. I'm dying to see you wear it." Maybe not wanting to frustrate her mother any farther, she obliged and walked to her room with the dress. Lota waited, hoping that the dress would prick up Joybel's spirit. After what seemed like forever, Joybel emerged from the room with the pink dress on. The dress was cut along the slim line, putting to advantage her youthful body. The first such dress Lota made without the balloon or shirred skirt. Even its neckline was far from the usual ruffles or Peter Pan collars. This one had a round neckline with extended off her shoulders. It looked very becoming to her. It showed off her swan-like neck and creamy shoulders. She approached her mother in measured steps, her hands hanging down at her side, making her look even more vulnerable. Lota was unable to suppress her joy seeing her daughter so pretty and ladylike. "Joybel, you look lovely. See for yourself." She took her hand and made her face the mirror. Joybel brightened as she saw her image, so different, so grown up. Light twinkled in her blue eyes. Lota felt triumphant. She had succeeded. Carefully, she gathered Joybel's hair at the back and tied it with a pink ribbon from the dress material. "There, that completes the ensemble. Now let me call your father. Let's show him your new dress." She coached Joybel as she hurriedly walked toward the door. Joybel, carried away by the enthusiasm of her mother, readied herself for her father's viewing. Mr. Miura had very good taste when it came to art and fashion. He liked elegance in its simplicity. Lota knew this, and she never disappointed him in her choices of materials, color, and cut for her and Joybel's dresses. "Well, come on, Mahal. You are in for a big surprise," Lota called her husband, unable to hold back her excitement. Mr. Miura walked up and stood transfixed before her daughter, who smiled at her father as she showed off her dress. "Beautiful, beautiful. You look very much like your mother the first time I saw her." He kissed her and, holding her by the shoulders, stepped back for another good look at her daughter. "You remind me so much of your mommy." With misty eyes, he cuddled Lota to his side. "Would I be like Mommy?" Joybel asked for reassurance. "Far more beautiful," cut in Lota. "You are young and fresh and vibrant." "Then may I take a walk? May I go down and just be out there?" She tried to choose the right words. She had suddenly become self-conscious before her parents. "Of course, you may go and enjoy the beautiful Sunday morning." Mr. Miura and Lota answered in unison, with the same glee in their voices. "Take your time." Joybel hopped to them, and after hugging and kissing each, she ran down the stairs, waving at them, and disappeared. Mr. Miura and Lota exchanged very meaningful looks. Indeed, they did well, very well. Joybel reached the top of the hill, panting and gasping for air. She had run the long distance from their house through the outskirts of town and up the hill. She turned around, inhaling as much fresh air as her lungs could take, raising her arms high above her head, laughing. Then she stood still and leaned back against the tree, looking down to the town. Something told her he would come. Ernesto would come. They would be talking more and longer. How she missed his voice, a welcomed reveille, the sweet chirping of birds. She could hardly wait to see Ernesto again. Ever since they saw each other, she always thought of him, not knowing exactly why. She often saw his face wherever she looked, and especially at night when she opened her eyes in the dark. He appeared like an apparition, his life lifting her, its warmth wrapping around her. She even saw him among the cloud formations, smiling at her, beckoning her to join him. Thinking of him was like waiting for the breaking of dawn with its glorious colors transforming into a rainbow. He would be at the end of the rainbow reaching out to her. She liked the picture. It made her feel nice. No, wonderful. Exquisitely nice. She could not remember having felt like this before. In fact, she had never experienced this wonderful feeling ever. Never, ever. but she never asked herself why. Maybe it was always like that with good friends, she reasoned. Joybell sat there under the lone tree for an hour, waiting for Ernesto. But the minutes passed without any sign of him. She began to feel uneasy, thinking perhaps he was not coming at all. Maybe he did not come to town to sell his crops on Sundays. Or maybe he was not feeling well. Joybell imagined all sorts of reasons why Ernesto had not come. She simply must see him to be assured that he was well. After another hour of anxious waiting, Joybell decided to go back home. Her steps were heavy as she retraced her way back, but decided instead to pass by the market. Suddenly, she heard screams and saw people scamper in all directions. There was a commotion in the market area. She could have run home, but something told her to go and see what was happening. She ran as fast as her feet could take her toward the marketplace. She was shocked to find people cower in fear. Then she saw men, civilians being herded by the Japanese soldiers toward the center of the clearing. They were ordered to kneel, their hands behind their backs. From behind the soldiers emerged an arrogant-looking Japanese officer, Sergeant Hiroto, his eyes fierce and bloodshot as he walked toward the row of captured civilians. He was dark and stern-looking, short and stocky with a bushy mustache. "You guerrillas we kill," he yelled at the row of men, brandishing his swagger stick up the air. His voice was high-pitched and irritating, and his English poor and heavily accented. "Take guerrillas to garrison and ask questions. If not answer, kill," he ordered, then marched away followed by his soldiers. "Wait!" Joybell screamed after she recognized one of the men, running toward the center, pushing aside one Japanese soldier who tried to stop her. "They are not guerrillas, they are just civilians." Ernesto was both surprised and relieved when he saw Joybell. "Please believe me, they are not guerrillas, they are farmers. I know all these people, they came to sell their produce." The crowd listened dumbfounded by the exceptional courage of Joybell, who appeared unafraid of the Japanese. "Yes, guerrillas, kill," Hiroto reaffirmed his order. "I'm Sergeant Mamoto. I'm in charge here." Sergeant Mamoto, who just arrived, stepped forward. Sergeant Hiroto realized that he was a newcomer in town, and Sergeant Mamoto had seniority, so he backed off and walked away in a huff. Sergeant Mamoto looked at the direction of Joybell, his mouth twisted, nodding his head slowly, as if contemplating what Joybell had just said. Actually, he heard nothing that Joybell had said. He only saw her lovely face and her soft, milky skin. Sensing an opening, Joybell lost no time. She lunged towards Sergeant Mamoto, faced him squarely, and spoke in Japanese. "I know you are a kind man, so please free these men. They are your friends," Joybell pleaded, praying that this Japanese, whom she had just seen for the first time, would listen to her. Sergeant Mamoto smiled within himself, devouring Joybell with his penetrating look, but Joybell did not waver. All she wanted at that moment was to see the men go free, to see Ernesto free. So thinking it might hasten Sergeant Mamoto's decision, she stepped closer to him, then clasping her hands together as in prayer, her eyes pleaded, "Hope this works," she wished. Mamoto felt flattered to be approached by a pretty young girl, much more to be asked for his mercy. He stood erect, expanding his chest and broad shoulders, and with hands akimbo, he stood with feet wide apart. He loved to be looked upon as a god. "You are an American," there was suspicion in his look. "Yes, but my father is Japanese." "He is Japanese just like you." She lowered her hands. "How do I know you are speaking the truth? How would I know that these people are not guerrillas as you claim?" he demanded. "I do not lie. My father tells me always to tell the truth. I repeat, my father is Japanese. We stay just outside the garrison," Joybell reasoned with all the innocence of a child. "You stay near the garrison?" Sergeant Mamoto's appetite for young beautiful girls was aroused. Why had he not seen her before? He fixed his eyes on her full bosom. A glint of lust shone in his face. I must have this girl, he vowed to himself. I hate it when someone fools me. He sneered. I don't believe you. She's telling the truth. A chorus of children's voices penetrated through the crowd, and about 6 children, mostly Japanese, came forward and faced the sergeant. Joybill doesn't lie. It was Michiko who faced Mamoto. She spoke in Japanese. Her father, Mr. Mayura, is good and kind Japanese. Now you believe me, Joybill persisted. Okay, I believe you, beautiful lady. Okay, let this man go free. I can't refuse this beautiful lady, Mamoto announced. Release them, he ordered. Sergeant Mamoto, a corporal, stepped forward. Sergeant Hiroto's order is... Before he could finish, Sergeant Mamoto cut him off. He felt insulted by the corporal's interference, especially in front of a beautiful lady. I said release them, he firmly reiterated. The civilians cheered and the men stood relieved as they dashed to their families. Joybill was so overwhelmed that she literally jumped up and held Sergeant Mamoto by the hand. Domo arigato, she bowed twice and turned to the children and hugged them. Thank you, Michiko. Umeki. Thank you all. Now go home, all of you, she urged them to leave. Joybill tried to restrain herself from rushing to Ernesto, who before she could take a step had disappeared from the crowd. She was relieved, for she decided it was not wise to call attention to him, especially if Sergeant Mamoto saw her. Sergeant Mamoto walked triumphantly with an arrogant gait, marched to the opening in the crowd that was paid for him, while the crowd cheered him for his benevolence. He felt like a returning war hero, welcomed by a grateful people. Joybill caught up with Ernesto, who surreptitiously walked away as fast as he could. Thank you, Joybill, Ernesto whispered when Joybill heard his arm. Come with me. You better get away from here fast. Joybill led the way toward the hill. Meanwhile, Michi, who had just arrived, caught a glimpse of Joybill. He smiled and paved his way through the thickening crowd to reach Joybill. But as he got near her, he saw her holding onto Ernesto and leading him away. A smile of anticipation was dampened, and slowly he turned away. Joybill and Ernesto have just left the market clearing, and the people have resumed their interrupted business. When the truckload of heavily armed Japanese soldiers returned, the soldiers jumped down from the truck. Sergeant Hiroto came down with his swagger stick in hand, looking around sharply. Gather all men, guerrillas here, fast here. This was followed by the horrified screams from the women and children as the Japanese soldiers roughly gathered all the men, pushing them down to their knees. I am not a guerrilla, pleaded an old man, his body shaking from fear. He is an old man and he is sick, sobbed an old woman as she stumbled to hug her husband. Sergeant Hiroto just stared at them and moved, then gave a signal to a soldier beside him. The Japanese soldier pushed the old man aside. You lie, guerrillas here to buy food, Sergeant Hiroto exploded as he scanned the crowd. You tell we're guerrillas, you free, he announced. Oh, guerrillas here, he shrieked, but there was complete silence in response. All right, you not full Japanese, come. He beckoned the hooded man from the truck, and the man stepped down and walked toward Sergeant Hiroto, arrogantly, confidently. He was of strong build, and from the way he moved, he could be in his 20s. A woman pumped tote bag with 2 holes to see through covered his entire head. All right, point the guerrillas, commanded Sergeant Hiroto to the man, a Filipino spy. The man walked deliberately in front of the kneeling line of men, looking intently at each one. The men bowed their heads and prayed in silence, holding their breath as the spy walked past each of them. Then he went back and stopped before a young man of about 20 with long hair. He pulled his hair up for a good look, and with conviction pointed at him. He is a guerrilla. The word felt like a death sentence, and in desperation, The man stood up and grabbed the spy's hood. As his face was exposed, there was a chorus of shock reaction from the crowd. They all recognized the spy. The old man gasped, "Oh God, no, no, Luis, my grandson." "Hang gorilla," Sergeant Memora's voice went through the room. "Teach you lesson." The young man was immediately hogtied. "Point more guerrillas. You said 3 guerrillas here," Hiroto impatiently demanded from the spy. The spy walked back to the line of men and disregarded the old man. "Luis, why do you do this?" The old man's voice quivered with both fear and anger. But Luis was unmoved. He showed no recognition of his grandfather. The old man stopped him. "Don't do this, Luis. They are your brothers, your countrymen." Luis pushed the old man toward the crowd without even looking back and proceeded to the next man. He was about to point to another young man when a teenage boy darted through the crowd and stabbed the spy with a kitchen knife. The crowd gasped. Before them, slumped in a pool of his own blood, was the spy. "Kill, boy!" screamed Hiroto. That's all for today. To be continued on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I hope you will inspire me with a like, share, and subscribe.